strong.
What's going on, everybody? Between the Dots, back at you for another excellent episode. Today we're going to be talking about the 2020 NHL draft class. We're going to be revisiting it. Obviously, got a couple Sens in that draft class, so we're going to be talking about those guys along with the many other talented players that were taken in that draft. We got our Sens and Leafs talk, news around the NHL. The Stadium Series happened last week, so we got a lot to get into today. How are you guys doing today, Rory?
Yeah, doing good. We got the trade deadline right around the corner, and it seems like it's getting to that time of the year where you're just paying attention to other teams around the league. 20, 30 games left in the season into the home stretch.
Yeah, Kijo, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, there's no better time than trade deadline and leading up to it. We talk about this every year, but I'm hoping that some of the teams make it close towards the end. I love when the games at the end of the year mean something and there's teams fighting to get in, so I'm hoping that's the case this year for the East and the West.
Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be good. Always nice to see the moves that happen around deadline too. So our trade deadline special is going to be happening next week. So stay tuned for that. What we want to get into this week, we'll start off with the Leafs and the Sens. So obviously Leafs goaltending situation has been a bit of a question mark all year. They have Joseph Woll in there, who was doing a great job for a while, and he got hurt. And he is now back. He has been in the AHL for conditioning. What are your thoughts on that, Kijo?
Yeah, I mean, it's still to see how Joseph Woll responds when he comes back, but I've been surprised with Samsonov. I mean, I still don't have the most confidence in him, but I mean, he's been doing the job lately. I know that's what they got him for, and he doesn't have a huge cap hit, which helps the Leafs because obviously they're in a bit of a crunch there. But I'm happy how he's been doing, and yeah, hopefully Wall responds and Jones is a good third option there. But with the Leafs too, no Morgan Riley, no problem. It's crazy how that happens, and I like how Nylander just said in an interview that they're kind of winning for him, and you like to see that too, how he sticks up for his teammates and how he felt they were embarrassed. We're not going to revisit what happened there, but I'm pumped that they're winning for Morgan Riley and 8-2 in their last 10. So the Leafs are they're rolling right now. Matthews getting close to 50.
Man, yeah, that's crazy how that stuff kind of happens sometimes where it's like you lose a key player and then just other guys kind of rally around that and they're playing great hockey. I give them credit for that. And Matthews is just unbelievable what he's doing.
Yeah, and you know how the NHL works. Like he's got to hit 50 tonight in Arizona. He has to. It always works that way. And maybe a Hattie to get to 52. I don't know. I guess we'll see later on. But no, it's exciting. Every game, it's just he scores, and I feel like people aren't surprised anymore. But yeah, no, I'm pumped for the game tonight in Arizona.
That's such a lot. That's such like a lock of a narrative for hockey. You're right, Kijo. 7 goals in his last 3. Like he's definitely getting one tonight in Arizona.
Yeah,
Those are like Falco Beer League numbers.
yeah, that's crazy. I don't even know if I had those kind of numbers in beer league. And he's doing it in the show. So anytime goal for Matthews seems like a lock at this point. So
Except you can't make money on it anymore.
Is he? Yeah. Is he going to be the greatest Leaf all time or what?
It's trending that way. I mean, we all know what I'm going to say, and he's got to get a cup. But I mean, I don't know. It's tough. If you look at Ovechkin, would he be where he is right now? Would we say he's as good as he is if he didn't win that Stanley Cup?
They would be the cloud that's looming over his head, the whole on his great career. It would be. What are your thoughts on that, Roy?
Yeah, the cup knocks you up like 2 or 3 notches there.
I remember for so long people were saying, who's better, Crosby or Ovechkin? Crosby or Ovechkin? Everybody for so long. Well, Crosby got 2 cups. Crosby got 2 cups, and finally Ovi won one. Then people kind of shut up about that. So, like Matthews, just in terms of even being like one of the greatest goal scorers of all time, if he wants to fit in with the rest of them, he's. I think you're right. He does have to win a cup. So
He's got 10 more than Reinhardt though. Like he's running away with it.
oh
I didn't even know that he was that close. Like when he got the hat trick in Anaheim, that's when I realized like, oh man, he's like actually running away with this right now.
he
I
like,
I
go ahead. Yeah.
I saw an interesting stat too the other day. It was about Riley not being in the lineup and has to do with Matthews too, but I forget exactly what it was. But the Leafs are like, with no John Tavares, they have a great record. With no Austin Matthews, they have a great record. And this is in the last like 4 years. No Morgan Riley, great record. The one guy that they struggle with and is not in the lineup is Mitch Marner, which I thought is crazy because everyone talks about, oh, Mitch Marner, is he really that good? Is he like, but he just, I don't know. It's looking, and I know they're small sample sizes where they haven't played, but you think back and it might actually mean something. How I know Marner's a good player. We don't say he's a bad player, but I think a lot of people say that he's not as good as he seems. But if you look back at the record, I mean, how can the Leafs be this good without Riley and with Matthews last year when he wasn't playing for a bit? It's weird how that works when teams do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't even make sense of that. Like I saw that Riley stat without him in the line. It's like, okay, he's your best defenseman, but so where do you make sense of that? How does that add up?
Yeah. That's impressive, though. The Leafs have been stringing wins together, and Matthews is a big part of that. So if Matthews, so in recent memory of mine, like one of the best goal scoring seasons we've seen was when Ovi hit 65, and Matthews, I believe his career high is what, 60. I think he's hit 60, but that was in the year he was hurt and he didn't play in all the games. He's on
Plus
pace
in the Canadian division too.
Right.
People were saying it was worth less because it was in the Canadian division, but now he's showing all those people that they were wrong.
Right, and like he's on pace for 75, which is just like, that's absurd. If he scores 75 goals, like
I saw that.
Is that a shoe-in for an MVP regardless of like his point totals? Because obviously he's not.
100%.
Yes, point totals as Kucherov. Yeah,
Without a doubt, 100%. 75 goals, you're winning it. You're getting all the first place votes.
Is he the favorite right now for MVP?
I don't know. I
Just
mean,
with that
so
goal
much
total, I like potentially he should be like, it's either him. McKinnon's been great. Kucherov's been great. It's tough.
I can't even believe that players have 90 points already.
I know.
We're gonna hit 100
It's
points
February.
this week, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be at around 140, 145 by the end of the year, which actually makes it seem like McDavid's total of 154 last year did not seem as impressive when you hear a guy like Kucherov, who's he's a great player, but he's gonna end up around like 145. Like maybe that's just a credit to how good Kucherov actually is as well.
So the Hart Trophy. Sorry, I got the Hart Trophy here. McKinnon's actually leading it at plus 160, and Matthews is fourth at plus 440.
Wow, I think that's a little disrespectful, to be honest.
That's pretty good value.
That is.
I saw a few weeks ago he was like plus 1,400. Matthews was.
Wow, hammer that.
So quite the jump there.
Yeah.
Looking back at stats too, like funny stats. This is from Hockey Reference. Tonight would be game number 200 that in a row that the Leafs don't get shut out. They have right now, it's the 11th longest streak in NHL history without getting shut out. Wow. So you think about what's the narrative going to be tonight? Is Matthews going to get 50 in Arizona, or are the Leafs going to get shut out and not make it to 200 games in Arizona against a team that obviously is not doing very well?
There's your happiness hedge right there, Kijo.
Yeah.
That's an impressive stat because I think the Sens get shut out at least 5 or 6 times a year. So,
yeah, the last time the Leafs got shut out was November 21st, 2021.
Wow. That's an impressive stat there. So,
that is good.
Yeah.
Hard to keep those guys off the score sheet. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's Leafs they managed to put the wins together even without Morgan Riley. So that's good for them. Sens have been putting a bit of wins together as well. They're 5-3-2 in their last 10. even though I don't really care if they do win at this point because the season's over, it's nice to see them playing good hockey. It is tough to see them in the standings where they're currently at, though. I will admit that. So they did you guys see Stutzla's goal the other day? He had a couple nice ones the past few games where he dekes through the defense and puts it home. Nice goals.
I don't watch a whole lot of Sens games, but it was on Family Day. A lot of games on. It was great. Leafs played in the afternoon, and then the Sens played the Lightning at night. And it was on Sportsnet, threw it on, and I'm thinking, I watched the first 5 minutes, and I'm like, the Lightning are gonna win like 10-0. Like the Sens are gonna get absolutely destroyed. And then I think Stutzla scores, Joseph scores a pair, and like they were nice goals, but like Vasilevsky, is that just from what I remember, he was somebody you just couldn't beat him. You couldn't beat him. And the Sens were like, they weathered the storm, which is exactly what they needed to do, scored a couple, and then the Lightning were just deflated after that. They didn't know how to rebound. And I remember the first 5 minutes. I was honestly about to text you, Felix, and be like, oh my God, should have took the over in this game. The Lightning are going to crush the Sens. And then the Sens win. It's wild.
The Sens seem to play incredibly well against the Atlantic. I don't know. They always put up a good fight against the Buds. They always beat the Wings. And then they're beating Tampa the other night. Like I said, folks, I'm looking around and I'm paying attention to like how Tampa's doing, how the Islanders, how the Devils are doing, because they're right there in the wild card chase. So, hey, props to your Sens. Taking 2 points away from the Bolts, I don't mind that at all.
Help out the Wings in that way. No,
yeah, that's right.
That's what I said, though. The only thing that's consistent about the Sens this year is that they're inconsistent. So they manage to play up against like really good teams. They bring their game up, and then they play really bad teams. Like the past week, they played Chicago and they lose to the Blackhawks, and they lose to the Blue Jackets. And it's like, what are we doing at this point? Like, how can you beat the Leafs and beat the Lightning and play good hockey, but then just like disappear for a game against the Hawks and drop 2 points in regulation? And it's like, it's just shocking and blows my mind, and it frustrates me as a fan. So it's like, and Stutzla's been asleep for half this year. I know he's part of that 2020 draft class that we'll get into later, but he has just been a ghost. So it's nice to see him wake up a little bit this past week. And yeah, it's tough though. I mean, at this point the season's over. Our goaltending situation is a mess. Like with Korpisalo, he's been so up and down. Even in games, the game where they had the other night, he played really well, but he gives up a bad goal, and they end up losing to Florida. So it's tough. It's like they're just inconsistent, it seems, this year.
Did you see the stat about the Sens, what their record is when they get goaltending above 900?
I did see that stat. They're
like that 20, is so tough.
23-2 this year when their goaltending's above 900, which I feel like that could be like a slightly like biased stat or like inflated stat, because obviously your record will be better if you get good goaltending. So I'm curious to see like what it would be for other teams as well.
Yeah, but league average right now is 905.
Okay.
So like
you just need
give
average,
us still
basically.
Yeah, average goaltending or even slightly below average.
Mm-hmm.
Like that just sucks too, because when they made that trade in the offseason, or they signed him, Korpisalo, I was like, he's had some pretty good years. Like this might be the right piece for them, and then just obviously it hasn't worked out.
Yeah, and it's in part it's the system that was in front of them for the first chunk of the year, and now they got the new coach and they're trying to learn new systems, but like part of it is just like these young guys that were a part of that 2020 draft class, and even the years prior to that with like Brady Tkachuk, like those young guys have got to step up and be able to lead the team to victories more than just like engage themselves in a game, but actually kind of put together a win. So I'm hoping that will come soon enough. So hoping that's where they'll end up. But as for this year, it's over for the Sens. And at this point, wins are nice to see, but I would much rather have Macklin Celebrini at the end of the season than any wins. So
finally, you're on board with that.
It's over. And especially with, like you said, like how competitive the East is and the Atlantic is. Like you could win a good majority of your games, play like 750 hockey, win 3 out of every 4 for the rest of the way, and still miss the playoffs with where the Sens are at right now. So
It was over a while ago,
yeah,
fellas. Don't
it's
worry about it.
like, so it's, and yeah, at this point, sell at the deadline, and next week we'll get into some guys who the Sens I think should sell, and there's a good amount of them. Like at this point, we should just keep guys who only can move the needle, and if they're not moving the needle, clean house, get them out of there. Like a guy like, even to me, like Chikrin this year, there was big expectations for him, but has he moved the needle a lot really for the Sens? I don't know. So maybe bring in a new guy. Maybe bring in a new NHL ready players. Not saying rebuild all over again, but we need guys that can move the needle here. So we got to find those guys. 'Cause that's where they're at. So, but Wings are in a playoff spot right now, I believe. Right, holding on to the last wild card, or are they just outside of it?
Second wild card.
Second
Yeah,
wild card. There it is. So they
but the gap's
announced.
tight.
Yeah, they announced this last week as well. Rasmussen signing 4 years at 3.2 million each year. Roy, I'll get your thoughts on that since you're the Wings fan.
Well, he's signed until he's 29, which is perfect in my opinion. I think like the main takeaway with this is like just expecting and being more accustomed to these depth guys getting multiple $1 million per year because of the cap going up. Like it's just the new norm, you know, like a few years ago, this would be like $1.5 million, $2 million contract. Like he's that guy who's going to play in the middle of your lineup. He's going to put up 30, 40 points probably. And you kind of know what you're going to get out of him. Right now, they got him on the top line with Larkin and Kane. So he's got some really good exposure, but he's just expected to be that guy to go and do the grunt work, right? And work the corners and get in those dirty areas. So good for him. Not ever going to live up to that 9th overall expectations that he had when he was drafted, but at least he does have an important role to play on that team. It's so happy to see him get the contract.
Oh yeah, the high draft pick, and the Moose is loose for another 4 years in Detroit. So that'll be fun to watch. And so, like, you talk about like those depth players as well. One line that actually sticks out to me so much. I think this has been a line for like the past 4 years in the NHL is Matt Martin, Casey Cizikas, and Cal Clutterbuck.
Yeah.
And that is just like a depth line. And that's got to be the best fourth line in hockey at this point, and you can't argue it because the Islanders somehow managed to make it to like playoffs or be competitive every year with those guys running the fourth line. They're great for energy shifts. They play the game the right way. They don't cheat the systems. They buy in. They hit. They fight. They score. They kill penalties. Like,
And the fans
which is
love him.
ironic
and the fans love
because
them.
have you guys seen Matt Martin skate? Like, holy, definitely not the quickest guy out there, but it's true. That fourth line, like, I think they were even together before Martin was with the Leafs, and then Martin came back after, and they put the line back together.
I can't believe how many games they've played with each other as a line, and like they'll call up guys, and they've had young guys fill in on the third line and the second line, and they just keep that fourth line intact with those guys there, and it's like they just get the job done, and it's just a great fourth line. So I mentioned them too because they were together. We were watching the Stadium Series this past weekend where the Rangers were playing against the Islanders in one of the games. Rangers ended up winning that game 5-4 in a comeback victory. What were your thoughts on that, Roy?
I think it was a pretty good game. Like I think that's perfect. That's a perfect matchup to have too, right? Have the two New York teams face off against each other. Kind of makes the whole Stadium Series vibe kind of a little more alive, a little bit more electric. So, and it was great that like however many 60, 70,000 fans got to see a great comeback win by the Rangers too. So they were it was getting pretty rowdy in there because the Islanders were up. They needed that win pretty desperately to try and get back into the wild card spot. and yeah, the Rangers just clawed back and showed that they're a top team in the Metro.
Mhm. Just revisiting that fourth line quickly of the Islanders, can you guys off the top of your head think of any fourth line that would be better than that group there?
Currently playing
Current,
in the NHL?
yeah, a current fourth line. Like in terms of chemistry, they're outmatched. Like nobody even comes close. I'm like going through teams' fourth lines right now, and the closest one that I've seen so far is the Jets. They have Rasmus Kupari, Nemesnikov, and Iafallo right now on their fourth line.
They have follows on their fourth line.
They've buried
That
them
is
there.
crazy.
Yeah,
That
well,
is
their
crazy.
third line's nothing to sniff at either. Like they've got Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, and then Mason Appleton on their
Oh,
third line.
that's a great third line.
Like the Jets are deep with forwards.
Yeah.
Like they are very talented. Their second line's Perfetti, Monahan, and Ehlers. First line's Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde. So like Iafallo, like the highest he can really get up to on that team's like the third line at this point. So like that fourth line for the Jets is really strong as well. That's other than that, like the Rangers fourth line isn't like I'm looking at Dallas, maybe Dallas's fourth line where they have Faxa, Sam Steele, and Craig Smith. That's not a bad
What's
one either.
the Nucks fourth line?
Canucks fourth line, they have Phil DiGiuseppe, Nils Amon, and Ilya Mikheyev.
Okay.
So
And then they
not
got
terrible.
Hoglander, Connor Garland, and who else on the third line probably?
Garland, Bluger, and
And Bluger, yeah.
Arshdeep Baines, who was
Oh
called up
yeah.
for his first game the other day as well too. So that
Yeah.
was yeah, like that's again like they're a deep team as well. So but the Islanders just in terms of chemistry, that fourth line's got to be outmatched for chemistry. They might be the longest standing like line in general in the
I
NHL.
bet they
Like,
are,
yeah,
yeah.
For sure.
I
Yeah.
can't think of
Heart and
any.
soul of that team.
Yeah, seriously. So that's yeah,
That
interesting
would
to
be a
know.
good maybe we could visit that in a future episode, the best lines ever in hockey.
Oh, that's a good
Yeah.
one right there. That's a good one. So, in terms of best draft classes in hockey as well, we're going to be talking about one of them now, the 2020 draft class, which featured guys, the first overall pick of Alexis Lafreniere, Quentin Byfield, Tim Stutzla, Lucas Raymond, Jake Sanderson to round out the top five. So a really, really good draft class there. And it's even more so than that. We were looking at stats as well. Only two players in that first round of the 2020 draft class are yet to play in an NHL game. And one of them, the one that is not playing in the NHL right yet, Maverick Bork, is second in AHL scoring right now. So a super talented draft class. Like that is just insane.
I was watching Quentin Byfield had that highlight reel goal last night. I caught that. Just Deke, the defender, fell to his knees, still was able to pull it to his backhand and go shelf. Like it was top five goal probably for this year. And I started thinking like, oh, he's kind of like I've seen his name a lot more this year. So I went to check his stats and 42 points in 52 games. It's his first healthy season and full season in the NHL. So great for him turning it around and close to that point per game pace, I guess. And then I just got myself in the rabbit hole and looked at that draft class and was like, this is actually like for players that are 21, they're emerging as stars or like real players in this league. And
Yeah.
I just thought that it was really cool just to even observe players into the second and third round that are like in the middle six or top four of their teams. It's incredible.
Yeah. Like really impact players in this draft class, like Marco Rossi, Cole Perfetti, Anton Lundell, Seth Jarvis, Caden Gooley. Like that's just, and the list goes on too. Like Ridley Gregg's in there. So is Tyson Forster. So is Connor Zari. Like Dawson Mercer. Like you name it. This is just all guys in the first round.
Evangelista.
Evangelista. And we haven't even started talking about guys in the second round yet, which are like Paterka, There is um, Brock Faber as well as Devin Levi, even in the seventh round. So it's like just this draft class is incredible. And like the top 10, every single pick was an absolute hit, which you never really like. That's rare to see that everybody pan out like that. So they've got Lafreniere, Byfield, Stutzla, Raymond, Jake Sanderson, Jamie Drysdale, Alexander Holtz, Jack Quinn, who's coming around, Marco Rossi, and Cole Perfetti. Like just at this age too, everybody's still so young, and they're starting to have breakout seasons, and that's what you're seeing with like Byfield this year as well.
Yeah, I'd say that this could be kind of maybe not quite his breakout year, but yeah, he's definitely like in contention for that. But like Connor Zary and Brock Faber are gonna get votes for Rookie of the Year. Like they're not gonna get first place votes, obviously, but they're definitely emerging as core players on their team. So,
Yep.
and it's crazy to see that like Faber traded with a first for Kevin Fiala, totally forgetting that LA drafted him originally.
Yep. Yeah, that's a huge win for Minnesota, if you ask me. They get a first round pick, and they're getting a a defenseman like Brock Faber. Who, those are just hard to come by. You don't get blue chip
I,
prospects on D like that easy.
yeah, I want to look back at some of Billy Guerin's moves because he's bold, but I think a lot of the moves that he's made has paid off. And the Parise and Suter one will have to wait a few years, of course, to see. It's hurting them right now, but I wonder if like in 3 years' time we'll be like, yeah, that was clearly the right move to make. But I think, yeah, Billy Guerin's got a good head on his shoulders. He definitely knows what he's doing.
Hmm. And it's funny that trade that you mentioned with Faber, where they end up picking up Fiala. I feel like that's what the Sens tried to do when they acquired Brandstrom from Mark Stone, is they wanted like a guy like Brock Faber, essentially like a same caliber player. Obviously, Brandstrom hasn't panned out, but they get Brandstrom and a pick, and it just hasn't worked out for them. But it's good to see like Fiala's doing well. It's a win-win for both teams, right? Fiala's doing well, and so is Faber. So it's a good
Okay,
trade.
folks, how would you? I'm curious because your Sens nailed it in this draft, but to see it test your unbiased ability, how would you redraft the top five?
Oh, here we go.
Okay,
I know who's taking one.
good question. Like
I think Stutzel is number one.
in
I
terms
think I
of
think he
points,
is.
there's nobody close to him in terms of points. So, and the skill that he flashes, you could argue, yeah, he should be one. Like 229 points in 263 games. The next closest has 148 points. So, a significant gap, and that's Lucas Raymond, by the way, of the Detroit Red Wings, who's the next closest to him in terms of
In
points.
50 less games. So the
In
points percentage,
in
the
50,
percentage isn't bad, but it is a lot less points.
that's right. Yeah, there is a less games total there, but like it's to me, it's like I'm taking. All right, I would go Stutzla one, Jake Sanderson two. I'm just, but an
Honestly,
interesting
though,
point.
that
It's
wouldn't be like far fetched. Like you can make a case for Sanderson at two,
right. You
but
could,
yeah,
just because it's hard to find defensemen that actually play like that. So, I would still. I'm not sold yet on like Byfield and Lafreniere being done. Like it's still they're so young still. I would say like
I think Byfield's going to be an impact guy for
I think
sure.
Byfield would be my
yeah.
two still. I think Lafreniere's lost a little bit of a step. Like he's been given all the opportunity in the world to prove himself on that Rangers team. 272 games played, the most out of that draft class right now, and yet he's not even top 3 in points. He's not even top 4 in points. Dawson Mercer has more points than Lafreniere does in terms of a career. Like, so it's just that to me is shocking when I thought Lafreniere was going to be an absolute lock of a superstar in the NHL. So I don't even know if I have Lafreniere in my top 5. I have Stützle 1. I'd go Byfield 2 just because of his size and his ability to play at both ends of the ice. I think he's still going to turn into a great player. He's shown a lot of flash this year. Not as many games played, so he still has a lot to prove. I take. I would go Sanderson at 3 over Lucas Raymond. I'd keep Raymond at 4. And then 5th, I would have. Like, I really, like, it's tough to say because I haven't seen a lot yet from Cole Perfetti. Actually, you know what? I'd go Seth Jarvis at 5. I think Seth Jarvis is going to be a real strong player. So I'd go Seth Jarvis at 5. You could make a case. Caden Gooley would definitely be in my top 10. Perfetti's making my top 10. He's probably going up from his number 10 spot. So lots of guys. Marco Rossi, too, as well. Like, he had to battle that heart condition for a while as well, too. So he doesn't have as many games played, but his point totals are coming this year. Really, another, like, good, solid rookie season from him. So these guys are just starting to blossom in the NHL, and it's just a great draft class all around.
Jake Neighbors, he's a steal at 26.
Oh, and how about Ridley Gregg, too? His first full season in the NHL at 28 for Ottawa. Like, just a excellent job by their scouting department for that year. Like, they really did well. They did miss on JJ Peterka in the second round, but that happens. So it's just a great draft class.
If you had to guess who's got the most penalty minutes right now out of that draft class,
without looking,
yeah, don't look.
I was on it. I was scrolling, so I can't say.
It's got to be. I feel like it would be like somebody who's played in more games. Maybe I'm gonna say I'll take Stützle because I feel like you're gonna. Is it Stützle?
It is 125 minutes of embellishment penalties. Every single one of these penalties.
Yeah. And 50% of those penalties are for diving. So
yeah,
that's good. Lafreniere is also.
He's good at what he does.
Actually, I just looked now as well. So yeah, he's exactly drawing penalties and occasionally milking them as well and getting called for it. So yeah, that's.
I'm with you though. I'm with you, folks. I think that I would keep Byfield at 2 just because massive center. And you haven't seen his full potential yet. Missed half a season with an injury. Is like, yeah, I think you got to leave him there just based on the upside.
In terms of, and yeah, like a lot of these guys too don't even have 80 games played yet in the NHL, and they're making a case to bump themselves up into the top 10. Like, I'd consider Greg being in the top 15 for sure. Seth Jarvis is in the top. I think he's top 5. Anton Lundell is definitely in the top 10. Like, there's a lot of, even Alexander Holtz, one of those guys that hasn't played a lot of games yet, but he could.
Do you guys think?
Yeah, he's good.
Stützle goes higher. I know third's pretty good, but obviously, do you think he goes higher if he's playing in a league like the OHL or just in the CHL in general? Like, I feel like for him being in Germany, like, I know the NHL has scouts everywhere, but I just feel like the hype was so much for Lafreniere, and like Stützle, everyone knew he was good. Like, even comparing him in the World Juniors to like Draisaitl for Germany. But I wonder if he goes higher if he's playing in the Canadian Hockey League or somewhere in the States too.
Well, yeah, that's like thinking about Sider when he was supposed to be drafted late teens, early 20s, gets taken 6th, right? Like, you just think that you just don't have as many resources in those areas to scout them, right? And I think that Stützle really popped in. I don't know, folks, correct me if I'm wrong, but World Juniors was like really his time when he jumped, I think, right?
Yep, it was. And that was post, the one tournament was post being drafted, I believe, as well, right? It was no, it was World Juniors before he was, yeah. So he really did stand out, though. That was like his coming out party. Him and Peterka on a line were just fantastic. So that was definitely where he stood out in terms of World Juniors. Like, he did play in 2. He played in 2 of them, and his second one was where he really dominated. And that was after he had been drafted. So
it's crazy too. Like, it honestly is sad looking at this too and thinking about like the Leafs pick in this round. at Rodion Amirov. Like I remember the summer, like we obviously knew what he was going through, but I remember one day, like when somebody's battling something like he was, and you're just going through and you see Twitter and I see the Leafs post that he had passed away, like it's we can only think about the kind of player he would have been too. So I can't go without mentioning Rodion Amirov. But
Mhm.
yeah, no, that was a sad story coming out of that draft.
Yep. Yeah. And one that always stands out to me. Do you guys remember who Luc Bourdon was? Do you remember that name? He was a first round draft pick for the Vancouver Canucks like years ago. Maybe like honestly like 20 close to 20 years ago, and he passed away before he had a chance to play in the NHL as well. He played for Team Canada World Juniors, passed away due to a motorcycle accident. Though was what his cause of death was, and it's just like yeah, it's sucks to see those highly touted players never get the shot at it. So yeah, that's but all in all, like that 2020 draft class was just incredible. Like just there's some great names too in that draft class, like Shakir Mukmadulin, and oh yeah, just a lot of
It's got to
talented
be top of the
players.
list.
Yeah, oh that does, yeah, without a doubt. So a lot of good
Gunnar Wolf
players.
Fontaine in the 7th round.
That's good.
Even William Wallander, like that's a good name.
Yeah. Niagara
Couple
Ice
good ones.
Dogs player too. Daniil Galushkin was taken in that draft as well. He's
Oh,
played in a
well,
few games. He's got 3 points in 4 games played in the NHL as well too. So maybe get him up there for like what's his stats like this year? He's got 37 points in 39 games this year in the AHL. He's a real solid player. So it's yeah, a lot of really good players that still aren't even kind of that are just scratching the surface right now of their NHL careers. So looking back on this draft class, we'll see kind of maybe in a few years we'll have a better understanding of where it kind of fits all time, but definitely their class is off to a great start. So very good. Very good stuff. So before we end off, just want to touch on a couple streaks that are happening right around the NHL. Currently, the Chicago Blackhawks are on a 21 game road losing streak. That's a tough one to be on, but yet they still find a way to beat the Sens at home. So, but they can't. Blackhawks can't seem to win on the road though. So they even with Bedard back. So Bedard donning the fishbowl. Yep.
Bedard is
how
so good,
many
man. The few games he's been back, like he's just unbelievable to watch.
Yeah.
how many
Superstar.
wins do you think the Hawks have at home?
I'll say 10.
They've probably played what 20, 25-ish at home.
Probably about that. Yeah. Maybe about that.
I'd say,
If they don't have a lot of
well,
wins on the road either, obviously.
yeah, it's
They've
got to be.
lost
Yeah,
21
I like
straight.
10. 10's a good guess
Or wait,
Wins at home.
because I
no,
think
the streak was 20. The streak was 21. Oh, 21 on the road. Wins on the road. I'm sorry.
Okay, wins
I
on
had
the
that
road.
backwards. Wins on
Wins
the road.
wins on the road has got to be really small. Like I'm thinking
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
2. I'm
I
gonna,
just looked, and that was a good
Yeah.
guess, by the way, Falks, at
Yeah.
home because they have 11 wins at home.
11 wins at home. Okay, that doesn't
But
leave a lot
yeah,
for on the road.
no, the road is bad, very bad.
How bad are we talking?
You were close. You were close though, folks.
Don't
They
tell me
had
it's 1.
four.
Oh,
Four
4.
wins on the road.
That's tough. That is tough. So, yeah, Blackhawks are struggling this year. Obviously, they're still in a rebuild, trying to build some pieces around Bedard, and they'll get somebody this year in this year's draft. So, they'll have a high pick for sure. So, another streak that's going on as well. Nate McKinnon's got a 27-game home point streak. We talked about him a little bit as a potential MVP candidate. We said he's currently leading the odds for an MVP race. What are your thoughts on his play this year?
I wonder if he's been phenomenal, and it helps with obviously being on a good team. And anytime you watch McKinnon play, the way he just takes off with the puck, and He can fly. He's got an incredible shot. He's the all around player, and yeah, I think he definitely has a chance to win it. But a part of me wonders if in a week McDavid goes, all right, I guess I got to go win this thing now, and puts up an insane amount of points in the last 25 games.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, McDavid's just catapulted up the points leaderboard there. Put up 6 against my Wings the other night. That one kind of hurt.
Yeah, 6 assists.
6 assists. Yeah.
That's actually
Speaking
broken.
Speaking of 6-point nights, how have we not talked about this 10-7 game between Minnesota and Vancouver last week, where Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek both got 3 and 3, a hat trick and 3 assists each.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
against
was
Vancouver,
looking
too,
at
it's a good
that.
team.
Yeah, too. And Casey DeSmith, they left Casey DeSmith in for all the goals.
Oh,
Come
in
on.
Vancouver. He was in for all the goals.
they definitely were like to Demko, you're getting the night off tonight. I don't care what happens. We're not putting
Yeah.
you in.
And then they score 6, and they're like, well, still not putting you in. And 4 more go in. It's wild.
That's brutal.
Didn't Minnesota
Or I
pull
guess
their
there's a
goalie?
couple empty netters maybe, but
That's brutal.
Did Minnesota pull their goalie? I thought
yeah, they did. Fleury,
They did,
it was
yeah.
Fleury was in for a little bit, but
Oof.
yeah. And speaking of that, I just wanted to take a quick look at our Between the Dots Fantasy Hockey League. A little bit of an update here. So we'll round out the top 8. I'm saying the top 8 because that keeps Rory and Felix off the list at 9 and 10.
That's tough.
It's all super close. But so we got Bad News Bears in first place right now at 14 and 4. Curdy is second at 13 and 5. Bread and Pasta, my squad, is third at 12 and 6. The Roman Empire 12 and 6. Dunner's Dudes 12 and 6. Habamaniac 11 and 7. Very nice, Mr. Owen Hinch at 11 and 7 in 7th place, and Maxima Finnegoat at 11 and 7 in 8th place. So you guys 9 and 10, you got some work to do.
Where
Yeah.
am I at?
10 and 8.
10 and 8, tied with Felix right now.
The
I'm
super
10.
team.
My record is 10 and 8.
And you're not in the playoffs.
Correct.
I know.
I started the year 7 and 0, I think.
Oh, you're on a downward trend then. So
Oh.
I can't believe there's some, not gonna lie, there's some bad fantasy teams in our league. Whoever the Ham Show is, 2 and 16. 2 wins all year. 16 weeks they've lost. That's
They're
a
the
lot of
Hawks
losing.
permanently on the road.
It is.
So,
and same with
I got a-
Sackbar, 3 and 15. What is going on?
I got a big matchup this week with Bad News Bears, little 1 versus 3. And of course, I'm looking, he has Joel Eriksson Ek. You know how many points Eriksson Ek has put up this week already? 37. 37
tough.
from one guy.
That's a
That's
big
tough.
Monday for him.
That is tough.
Oh, it's wild.
That's how it always goes too. So, and that's crazy. Like, there's 13 teams in this league who are above 500, and they're like only 8 make the playoffs. Like, that's just it is tight. It's like the Eastern Conference here trying to battle it out for a fantasy playoff spot. That's crazy.
My mistake was indeed drafting a Buds player. I said beforehand I would never draft a Bud, and I like to think I've always done pretty well in fantasy. I pick a Bud, even though he's
What?
just leading the league in goals.
You're right.
The team has struggled.
That's where you went wrong.
Rory, that
right?
may be
It's
the
bad
worst take
chemistry.
you've ever had. You just said
It's
the
team
guy that's
chemistry.
leading the league in goals you wish you didn't draft.
It's team
Terrible,
chemistry.
terrible.
It's all
Well,
about
hey.
the locker room.
Have we been to the trade deadline yet? We could probably work something out here. I'll take Matthews off your hands.
There we go.
Hey, he's at an all-time high price-wise right now. So yeah.
There we
It's
go.
okay. I'll give you
Put him
Patty
on the
Kane.
block.
Give you a wing for him.
There
Oh,
we go.
I'm interested.
We'll let
in
you
that.
two cook a deal in this upcoming week. But yeah, that's the Between the Dots Fantasy League. Tight race, just like the Eastern Conference. And yeah, it's been a great episode today. So you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Big one in at the Mullet Arena tonight, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go Leafs. Matthews for 50.
Yeah.
Question, I guess, since trade deadlines around the corner, and we were just talking about fantasy fantasy hockey. Is our trade deadline the same day as the NHL's trade deadline, or how is that? Do we know how that works?
I believe it's a week after is what it's set for. So we get to see.
Okay, so we got some time.
Yeah, you see the deals that happen in the NHL, and then you have a week to kind of react to those and make your own trades.
It's probably how it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
A little bit of time for us to make a deal still. So, yeah, we got our own trade deadline special up next week. That's what our theme of the week for next week's going to be. So tune in for that. As for this week, it's been another fun episode. And yeah, we'll catch everybody next time. Thanks again for listening. We go live on YouTube every Wednesday, and episodes are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for you to listen to there as well. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.